Today I'm talking to Kate Dunbar. If you have arthritis, you need to listen to this interview with her. You will be amazed. At 40, she was crippled. She was in bed with arthritis. Now at 60, she's running marathons, and she'll explain exactly how she did it.
My life has changed beyond recognition, actually, because I run, and I never thought I would be a runner. And I have, in fact, now run 2 marathons, the last of which was 2 weeks ago in Paris, which was absolutely fantastic experience. So I was really, really proud of myself. So yeah, running's a big part of my life. But I also, I'm a graphic designer. I help create the fact sheets for the plant-based health professionals. I'm not the clever one that writes them. We have all our amazing doctors and dietitians and nutritionists who write them, and then I just sort of try and make them so that ordinary people like me and as well as health professionals find them useful and can learn something about their condition. Or for example, my latest one I'm doing is on protein, so it might be on all different kinds of things. So I do that. I teach art workshops to people, members of the public, and often have art drop-in sessions. And I do ceramics as well. So, and this is something that is part of the two giant panels that are going to go up, and it's going to get glazed. But yeah, this is the top part. So yeah, that's my life. I'm married, and I have 2 grown-up children. I love gardening, growing food, cooking, all those sorts of things. So yeah, I'm feel very lucky. I have a really fantastic life. So yeah.
Okay, so contrast this, what you are now, all this energy and life and lots of projects and excitement and running, with where you were when you were 40 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a teacher, and I was very stressed. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't eating properly. I came down with psoriatic arthritis, which, for those who don't know what it is, it's an autoimmune condition. And just very quickly, over a matter of days, really, I had a whole load of joints all over my body flare up and become incredibly painful. And I ended up taking to my bed, and I couldn't really even move in bed. I was like on my back. I couldn't lie on my side. I had to have my feet elevated because just having my feet touching the sheet was just too painful, the pressure. Really, I spent an entire summer of 6-7 weeks in bed, dosed up to the eyeballs with painkillers and anti-inflammatory, until I managed to finally get to see a rheumatologist. So that was pretty awful, I can tell you. So, yeah.
So the rheumatologist, he or she diagnosed psoriatic arthritis, is that right?
Yes, not initially. It was just a general form of arthritis. At first, they weren't sure, even though my mum had psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis. I hadn't come out in any psoriasis, and it's much less common for people to have arthritis and then psoriasis. The majority of people have the psoriasis, and then a few of them may go on to develop arthritis after that.
Right.
So they couldn't be sure that's what it was. So it did actually take a few years to say, yes, it's psoriatic arthritis. But the rheumatologist, he put me on methotrexate, which is an immunosuppressant drug. Yes, which is, you have to have your bloods tested every month for that because it's very toxic. But it did, over like a period of a year, actually, it did start to bring the inflammation down, so that I could start getting on with life again. And then as I started to get better, you're just so chronically fatigued. You do the slightest thing and that's it. You're wiped out. Can't do anything else. It really was a kind of non-existence for a while. And I know my husband was very worried because we thought I might have cancer or something like that. But thankfully, I guess I was very lucky in that the methotrexate did begin to control the disease. I did go back to the rheumatologist and because I thought I'd noticed that certain foods might be triggering things and but I couldn't put my finger on it. I wasn't sure. And in my mind, if you have an effect, there may well be a cause. And I was trying to work out what was causing these like extra kind of painful, my joints beginning to feel even more painful from time to time. And I just thought, oh, what is it I'm doing? So I asked him, I said, is it something I'm eating? And he just went, food has got nothing to do with it. And I'm like, well, if it's not food, what is it? It must be something, So, I kind of nursed that doubt in my head. And eventually I saw another rheumatologist and he suggested I speak to his rheumatology nurse. And she said, well, yes, some people, they find they can't eat tomatoes or they can't eat chilies or, it could be anything. Why don't you try an elimination diet? And that's where you take things really down to basics, things just like plain white rice and maybe apple. And then you very, very slowly start bringing a few other foods in. And then just waiting and seeing if you get a reaction. And I found that things like cheese, eggs, red meat, were giving me a reaction and weirdly stone fruits as well. But it seems that I could still eat chicken and I could still eat fish. But in the meantime, I'd done some research on the internet and I'd come across the Vegan Society. And I guess because I'd been thinking about my food so much, coming across the Vegan Society, I suddenly was like faced with all these facts about what happens to the animals in the food system. And I just thought, I've always loved animals, this is awful. I don't think I want anything more to do with it. So I actually chose to stop eating chicken and stop eating fish as well. I had heard of what a vegan was, and I thought that's really extreme. I'm never going to do that. But hang on a minute. Look, here's the Vegan Society, and they're telling you can be vegan and you can be healthier. And here, this is how you do it. So I thought, I'm going to do it. And my dear husband, I don't know if he thought I was mad or anything like that. He never said so, but he actually did it with me. So this is like 18 years ago now. And I didn't really know any other vegans. So it was quite a challenge, but we stuck with it. And it has got easier, of course, over the years.
Right.
And anyway, so going vegan helped me, on the whole, drop my medications to about half what they were when I was very, very poorly. So just going vegan in itself was very helpful. And then one time, this was just yet another rheumatologist that I was seeing, he said, you're doing pretty well. Why don't you try coming off your medications? And I thought, right, okay, I'll give that a go. And I tried dropping them, but almost immediately I started getting flare-ups again. So I thought, right, okay, that's it. I'm not going to be able to do that. And when I finally saw him again, he said, no, you're probably going to be on them for life. So anyway, I poodled along like that. And in fact, I I started my own little vegan food stall at farmers markets and at vegan food fairs, which were starting up. And that was all very exciting to be part of that. But of course, I was making all these gooey cakes and pies and all sorts of things like that. I mean, they were really delicious. And of course, if there was any left over, I could eat like 3 cupcakes in one sitting. And it wasn't until I went to Veg Fest in London, which is now about 7 years ago. And I had started running a little bit for some strange reason. It wasn't really proper running, though. You couldn't call it running. It was just sort of shuffling along on we live at the beach here. So, I used to take my doggies for a walk and I just started shuffling along. I was very frightened about hurting my knees, with arthritis. Anyway, at the Veg Fest, I was walking past a vegan runner stall, I noticed. And gosh, I thought, wow, vegan runners. I never even heard of vegan runners. And I wasn't even going to go up to it because I thought, well, I'm not a runner. But there was a woman there and she was all on her own, sort of rearranging things on her stall. And I just found myself drawn over to her. I just thought, I'll just go say hi, And so got chatting and I just, lovely vegan runners. Wish I could run, but I can't. I've got this condition. And she went, well, what condition? What's wrong with you? And I said, well, I've got this psoriatic arthritis. It means I have to be really careful of my knees, And she said, oh, psoriatic arthritis. Oh, I used to have rheumatoid arthritis. But now I run marathon. I've gone whole food vegan. And she said, why don't you try it? And I said, but whole food vegan. I said, but you're on all your meds, aren't you, right? And she went, no, I stopped taking them 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I was just like completely gobsmacked and like starting to cry because it was just, I couldn't believe it. And anyway, so I went away, went home, realised I hadn't asked what a whole food vegan diet was. So I then had to trawl around the internet again to try and find out what on earth it was. And and it took me a while, but I found Forks Over Knives film, and I found Dr. Michael Gregan, How Not to Die, the book, which I read right through, and and then I was thinking, I'm still not entirely sure what the diet, what the diet is, because I'm vegan. What is it? Then I thought, oh, I think it's no oil. Oh dear, everything starts with fried onions and stuff. How am I going to exist? Oh no more samosas. And I was thinking, and and then also I was thinking, hang on a minute, all the food I make for my stall is like full of fats and sugars and all these refined things. I mean, some of it was healthy, but I'm thinking, if I want to try this thing, I've got to stop eating all those kind of things. And I just thought, I mean, after like a few weeks, I thought, do you know what? I can't imagine it's going to work for a minute. It's just no way is it going to work. It just sounds absolutely mad. And but then I thought, do you know what? I think I'm going to actually have to try it. And so I said to my husband, I said, look, I'm going to try this, but you don't have to. And he went, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. He hasn't once told me I'm mad to my face over the years. So it stuck with me. So anyway, we did do this thing. And after a few weeks, I was really afraid of trying to drop my medication, actually drop my pills, because I was on 4 tiny pills and you take them once a week. And because the last time I'd done it, I'd started getting all these flare-ups and actually my skin was flaring up and really became very painful. So that was obviously the psoriasis, which was masked by the methotrexate. So I was really quite, scared. So one week I went down from 4 to 3 and I was fine. I was like, oh, okay then. And then like a few weeks later, I didn't dare do it like once a week or anything. I thought I've got to do this really slowly. And then a few weeks later, I dropped another pill. So I was just on 2. I was still all right. So finally I got down to like one tiny little pill. They're really, really small. And I didn't dare just not take it. I cut it into quarters and I dropped like a quarter every weeks until I was down to absolutely 0. And then I was off all my meds. I had no flare up, no pain. And I just felt absolutely fine. And it was just so weird. And it meant I could go to my doctors and say, look, I don't need my blood tests anymore. I'm off all my meds. And then I went to see my rheumatologist. You see them like once a year. Test. I'm completely discharged. And that is like, well over 6 years ago now. So, and I'm still pain-free, running, getting a bit faster all the time, running a bit more properly than I was before. All very different.
Absolutely an amazing story. I mean, I think we often think of arthritis as just something you have to live with. And given that your mother had it, I think she was quite crippled with it, wasn't she?
She was. Yeah, she was. She ended up in a wheelchair and her hands, they were very twisted. My dad was really a carer for her because there were so many things she couldn't do with her hands in particular. And her feet were very, very bad. She couldn't walk very far when she was a little bit younger. Found everything very difficult. And so I feel incredibly grateful, really.
So presumably your advice to anybody who has an autoimmune disease would be to try a whole food, oil-free, vegan diet, plant-based diet, yeah?
Definitely, yes. I think there is also there's the research going on in the Netherlands, isn't there? The Plants for Joints research. It's so nice to actually see it proven in the science. Proper research. So, I would definitely say it is worth doing it properly as well. I think the more you adhere to it, the more likely you are to get results quickly. I mean, I'm very grateful to have been on the methotrexate because that did stop my joints degrading really badly. But I think being vegan also probably brought my inflammation down quite a lot in itself. So the two together work really well and allow me to have enough time to find out, what was going to get me really better. I think there's definitely a place for the medication.
Yeah.
I've spoken to so many people that have got my condition or something similar and they just I don't know what it is. It's very hard for some people to change, isn't it? Incredibly hard. And I guess you cling to what you know and gives you, and I suppose if you feel you've got so much pain and one of the only things you get pleasure from is what you're eating. And like I say, you're clinging to what you know. But then, people after a while, sometimes people's medication stops working. They then have to be put onto another drug. And even then that stops working. And all the time their disease is still degrading their joints. And then they find they have to, have an operation on a joint or what have you. You're also more prone to cancer with psoriatic arthritis. And you are also more likely to get another autoimmune disease. If you have one, apparently you're more likely to get another or even several others. So there are so many reasons to do it.
Plant-based diet has been shown to be really beneficial in helping to prevent some forms of cancer. So again, it's really important. It's been shown to be helpful for type 2 diabetes prevention and so on and so on and so on. So you're not only, with this sort of diet, you're not only looking after the psoriatic arthritis, you're also actually doing something bigger for your long-term health as well, I think.
Absolutely. And plus also, when you're doing so any form of sport, you want to be eating things that are, quickly aiding your recovery and not causing any more inflammation than you've already, given your muscle through exercise or your joints through exercise. So it's also the best thing to be eating if you're partaking in any sport at all. So it's all win-win-win really. And actually it's a diet of abundance as well, isn't it? And that's so tasty. The first week when we were doing the whole food plant-based diet, I was like, oh dear, this is, I don't know, so bad. Your taste buds change and you start learning how to kind of perhaps, switch things up, put in a few herbs and spices, or even eating just fairly plain is still very tasty. If you're using fruits and vegetables, it's really tasty, isn't it? And you can have all kinds of lovely puddings. You don't need to feel like you're going without at all. I don't think, not at all. So.
No, I'd agree. And also, people say, oh, well, I'd rather enjoy my life eating cakes and stuff like that. But, if your life is full of pain while you're eating the cakes and things, that's not an enjoyable life. And
no,
I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything particularly insightful to say that you experience much more joy and happiness now on the diet you're on than you did when you were in your 40s and eating all that cake and sugar and fatty foods. Yeah.
Completely. I was with Paul Youd, who's an ultra runner, and he's 86 and he's absolutely amazing. We both stood there and said, I feel so happy. He said that somebody said to him, you're the happiest bloke I know. And he says, yeah, I am. I'm really happy. And I said, I'm really happy too. And I think it is the diet as well. It's feeding our gut bugs. They're like full of happiness and what have you. And it is linked to, a sense of well-being, isn't it? Somebody else said to me the other day who's recently gone vegan, she said, I feel lighter in myself. And I think there's that too. You kind of know that you're trying to live a life of doing as least harm as you possibly can. And I think that also just, lightens you and you don't feel weighed down in any way. So I think there's there's probably a whole load of other reasons why you might feel happier, but that's that I can think off the top of my head anyway. So
thank you so much for sharing it's such an inspiring story. I hope that the people with arthritis who are listening to this, say, okay, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to commit to a month or 6 weeks and I'm going to follow it completely. I think that, and let's do a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. Let's see what happens if I follow this diet. And obviously don't start dropping your medication, but follow the diet and gradually find out whether it's beneficial for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't drop your medication just like that at all. Do it with your doctor. A lot of doctors are becoming much more open to it.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Kate.
Thank you.
Kate talks about Paul Youd. Paul used to have very painful osteoarthritis, but a change of diet removed the pain completely. Kate explains in our interview that he's 86 years old, an ultra runner, and a very happy bloke. The link for my interview with Paul is on the screen now, and it's also in the video description. And don't forget to like, share, comment on this video too.